Details of these stories and more coming up shortly. Do stay with us. And in our very first story, passengers without face masks are forced to buy one or they are dropped off at the lorry terminal in Kaneshie. But as Sarah Parker reports, months after the outbreak of the coronavirus, some commuters are still in denial, making enforcement a challenge.
This is the Kaneshie lorry terminal, where one can find a vehicle to every corner of the country. A careful look around revealed most patrons moving about without face mask or observing any social distance with persons they encounter. But no vehicle moves out of the two entrances of the yard without a rigorous check by the security. The presence of the news team did not deter some passengers from being rebellious towards the exercise.
You can get down and take another car. Get down before the car will go.
The situation is, however, different at the 37 lorry station. Operators of the stations are hopeful the social distancing protocol in vehicles will continue after restrictions are lifted, but want government to absorb more of their costs.
We want a reduction in prices for spare parts and tires as well as fuel. Then we can maintain this arrangement after the restrictions are lifted.
A driver, Akins Odro, cannot be bothered if a passenger has face mask or not.
We are only helping each other. We hardly get passengers after 10 a.m., so we can't risk demanding the wearing of face mask.
Passengers say they want the social distancing protocol in vehicles to remain after restrictions are lifted, but some are not willing to pay extra for the empty seats.
My comfort and my safety sake, that is first, paramount, than how much I'm going to pay.
When it's 4-4, you know, the way we set, it's not easy. Even if you're a nursing mother, it becomes very difficult. Even when the child is crying, for you to be able to feed the child is very difficult.
Discussions are ongoing as to how, as a country, we would live our normal life while the coronavirus is still with us. However, there are mixed reactions between commuters and drivers on how to ensure adherence to safety protocols in the vehicles and at the transport yards. We can only wait and see. Sarah Parker, TV3 News, Accra.
And there is high hope and anticipation among churches and religious bodies ahead of the president's address tomorrow. These organizations are optimistic the president, in announcing new easing measures, will allow for religious gatherings to begin. Grace Hamwa-Isari finds out how churches are getting ready ahead of the big announcement.
For over 2 months, churches and other religious places of gathering have remained shut due to COVID-19. Many pastors resorted to online platforms to reach their congregation. But this did not appear sustainable due to the financial constraints. Many religious groups and associations are calling for the president to allow churches reopen with adherence to the COVID-19 protocols. But are church members ready to go to church?
Go immediately, that one there, I'm not sure. I'm anticipating that we can go to church, but at the same time, the fear is there, as in security, because we don't know, we can't tell if one has it or not.
No, I'm not scared. I'm very excited when government opened the church, because since we are at home, some people can pray, others can study the word of God. So we'll be extremely excited when government opened the church for us.
Me your shower, sorry. Sorry, near beer, a bear me depan. But sister, near bank as a social distancing. I say no mom na ye adwuma, nti me de be ye adwuma.
I'll be willing to go to church, but I think we have to look at it. How are we going to adjust ourselves so that it won't be a problem for us?
Pastor Michael Adair of the African Faith Tabernacle Church insists it is not ideal for churches to reopen.
I don't think the church should have been open at this time, to my opinion. But we have to subject ourselves to the authorities according to Romans chapter 13. So if the president deemed fit and see to it that now he can lift that ban. But you have some people, they have thousands of people. So if they are coming together, what will be the effect?
He said his church has the needed items to stay safe and will hold 2 services as part of observing social distancing.
So far as we are serving God, we want to protect ourselves as well. So what we have to do is, assuming all the 70 members are coming, either we are going to have 2 services for first service and second service, or using another canopy outside so that we are going to contain all the members.
The situation is same at the Lord's Vine Church at Ablekuma.
The measures big go. So near Abana Yarana Bayu, Adway, nose mask, Obian Shebi. Nanka say, your members at least getting to be at 200 or 300. Anka measures in made down say beer. Sunday be a so once, and 2, and Chaymu. Maybe number and time to time. Young closing co, now for some time to time, send a bayer, social distance no, ebetum ayejuma.
Pastor Forsing wants other religious leaders to support the government in ensuring the eradication of the virus and not their personal gains from church business.
Church, ebinum afanse business in America because obi ayo nku spy dating down. Spy dating down within 2 months. Ebe say no na how but yan ton hwe yan no and come good na come say shirt the agenda na nyame ba ka bia no na ye.
President Akufo-Addo in his last address extended the ban on public gatherings to May 31, which elapses on Sunday. Well, chairs have been packed, praises and worship on hold, and in fact, even the tambourine hasn't clanged for a while because of COVID-19. Well, these churches tell me they are ready to institute measures to ensure the safety of their members. Until COVID-19 goes away, we'll have to find a way to also go around it. Indeed, these are not ordinary times. Grace Hamwa-Asare, TV3 News, Accra.
You're watching News 360. We plan to speak to representatives of religious bodies on this issue ahead of the president's statement tomorrow. But at the last minute, most of them have decided not to speak to us. However, the good news is that we have Sheikh Armyworm, and he is the spokesperson for the National Chief Imam of Ghana. And he is on the telephone now. Sheikh, salam alaikum, and thank you for joining us on News 360.
Alaikum salam, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Sheikh. So let's begin with you. You have said that if there is a partial opening of religious activities, it will not benefit Muslims. Explain to us why you think so.
Thank you very much. In fact, in a meeting that was held between leaders of religious bodies, including Muslims and Christians, where we met the Council of State, we tried to assess our views in anticipation that the restrictions are lifted. And at that point, we indicated that we think it's important for the government to do a very effective assessment and evaluation of the COVID-19 situation in the country. It is that evaluation that will determine whether there could be partial lifting of the restrictions or a whole or complete lifting. And at that meeting, we indicated that if there is a partial lifting, it will not work with us because of our tradition and culture of worship. In other words, we Muslims do not have membership for mosques, so we are unable to determine who comes to mosques or who does not come. Any Muslim who travels and is time for prayer and he finds any mosque will enter and say his prayer. Our mode of prayer is such that when we are praying, we are unable to turn to see who is violating and entering into the mosque. There will be the difficulty of keeping a section of devotees outside the mosque as we keep some inside. That is the reason why we say the partial lift apply effectively to us if it is partial. But if it's whole or complete lifting, then that applies to us, because then we will be able to observe all the protocols that will ensure that we curb the further spread of the COVID-19 virus. For example, we'll be able to take control of our entry points. So at the door of the mosque, for example, we'll be able to place sanitizers or Veronica bucket, or we have a volunteer who will be by the door and be pouring the sanitizers on the people's hands. That will work for us. We will be able also to encourage people to come with their own mats. Apart from what we have, the permanently laid mats in the mosque, we will encourage every individual devotee to come into the mosque with his own prayer rag, which he will take away when he finishes. Thirdly, we will also want to disinfect microphones on our pulpits on Fridays. Before the Imam will begin, then we would have also used the disinfectant on the microphone. At our ablution day, we will also disinfect the taps which have been used by some devotees before others can use. We will avoid the use of water cans or containers that are used by multiple people. That will be discouraged, so that everybody can come with either his own water can or we use a running tap. I mean, these are some of the things. And then the use of the nose mask is also one of the things that we will. And because of that, we are thinking of making sure that we have COVID-19 committees for each mosque. In fact, from the national mosque to the regional mosque, to the district mosque, to community mosque, and to neighborhood mosque, we have COVID-19 enforcement committee that will ensure that all these protocols are well observed. If it is completely lifted, that is the arrangement we shall put in place. But if it's made partial, we will run into difficulty.
All right, Sheikh, there is one more question I'd like to ask you before you go. You know, you mentioned ablution and the application of sanitizers and so on. So at what point do you apply the sanitizers? Because when you perform ablution, you are supposed to enter the mosque in that holy nature and perform your prayers. So, and I know that nothing is to interrupt that ablution process before you stand before your God. So how do you apply sanitizers which sometimes contain alcohol to go and stand before God and perform as a Muslim?
In fact, this issue of alcohol, industrial alcohol is different from the alcohol brewed for one to take and get intoxicated. This one is a different chemical that forms part of the chemical components of the sanitizers. So it is possible for us to use. It is not seen as that which has been brewed for one to take and get intoxicated. So I think we need to dispel that kind of misunderstanding. It's just like to say that even in some of the food that we take, there are some certain percentage of alcohol in kinky, in condo, and other things that we take. There is a portion of alcohol, but we are talking about the alcohol in terms of what has been brewed, and not with the intention to get tipsy or to get intoxicated. Those are the things that we are talking about. That is not part of our. But I need to also add that why we say we cannot use public containers for ablution is that, the water we use for our prayer is supposed to be clean, devoid of any external element entering into it. So once a disinfectant is used in it, it means that an external element has been introduced. Then that vitiates the purity of the water. That's why we rather go for each person coming with his own ablution can or container, or the use of tap with running water, and then we disinfect the taps such that no one gets infected. Okay.
Sheikh Armyworm, we are grateful for your time. He is the spokesperson for the National Chief Imam of Ghana. Thank you, Sheikh.
One more person has died of coronavirus in the last 48 hours, and per the latest figures, 152 new cases have been recorded, with 128 more persons recovering. Coming up, a breakdown of the figures.
And in more news tonight, the Crops Research Institute of the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research says swift action is needed to manage the resurgence of fall armyworm in the country. The institute fears a dip in maize production should the infestation be allowed to fester. Here's Ibrahim Abubakar's report.
Thousands of acres of maize farms were destroyed following the invasion of fall armyworms in Ghana in 2017. Farmers lost their livelihoods as a result of the infestation of the pest. 3 years after, maize farmers have started experiencing the resurgence of the deadly pest on their farms. Government has issued alerts to farmers, but the Crops Research Institute wants district agric officers to be in constant touch with farmers to monitor the farms and prevent the spread of the pest.
We have not done what we are supposed to do. We want to sleep when we were able to bring the population down a bit, but we should have continued. So I expect the Extension Service of Food and Agriculture to always team up with the farmers and tell them they need to always control or manage the armyworm. If we do that, we will be able to bring the populations down.
Dr. Moses Mukaya fears the pest infestation, if not controlled, will affect food security in the country.
We shouldn't sit down for the infestation to linger on, because there is no way that we can import food from outside to supplement whatever that we have here because of the advent of COVID-19. So what we can produce, we need to make sure that we maintain it, or we put in measures to control or manage the infestation of the armyworm so that we can get enough.
The research scientist has recommended pesticides such as Striker, Bipel, and Attack, among others, in managing fall armyworm. Government says it has made available free pesticides for smallholder farmers to fight the pest, but some farmers claim they are yet to benefit from the intervention.
Ghana stands a great chance of maximizing opportunities in apple production following the successful cultivation of the fruits in some parts of the country. Scientists at the Crop Research Institute of the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research are confident of successful mass production. Ibrahim Abubakar has been speaking to Professor Beloved Mensah Jomeku, a horticulturist and principal research scientist at the CSIR.
After the Wiamwasi approved Bruhaha, some areas including Etimetim, Tabum, here in the Ashanti region, have reported the growth of apple tree. Scientists say the apple can be grown in temperate-like weather conditions in the country, including areas like Abetipi and Ebre. I have some of the scientists here with me who have visited both Wiamwasi and Etimetim to assess the fruit and find out whether it's indeed apple or not. Let's speak to the principal research scientist.
This is very possible in Ghana. There are certain parts of the country. For example, Ebre, Kwao Mount is a Bitifi area, and Amejope in the Volta region. They have a temperate-like climatic conditions during the dry season. As such, apples can grow there. Other tropical areas can also grow apples, because in Israel and India, tropical apples have been developed, which we can use in Ghana.
As it stands now, have we grown any of the apple tree in the country?
The only one we've identified currently is the one at Etimetim, Tabum, which we identified on Tuesday. And the owner said he was carrying out an experiment, and he brought the plants from Belgium. And having studied the plant, it's likely we can grow.
What is the difference between the one at Tabum and the one at Wiamwasi? Because I know you went to both communities to assess the fruit.
When we went to Wiamwase, we have an app which we can use to identify the tree. We observed that the plant at Wiamwase is a fig tree, not apple. And though that fig is edible, we need to look at it whether the one there can be edible in Ghana. Because the insect that pollinates lays egg in it. And that egg will hatch whilst the fruit is developing. Hence, will destroy the fruit at maturity. But the one we saw at Tabom is real apple. Fig tree has a lot of seeds in the fruit, whilst apple has a single seed in the middle of the fruit. So there is a vast difference between the two. We have just initiated what we brought from Tabom. We have planted the twigs that we brought. We are monitoring them, and we are hoping that as they come up, we'll do cuttings and also use tissue culture to propagate, to multiply them.
That was Professor Beloved Mensah Jumoku, a principal research scientist here at Crop Research. He has confirmed that the one they found at Etimetum Tabum is a real apple, and that it is time government invest in the production of apple in the country. Ibrahim Abubakar, TV3, Kumasi.
Rice farmers in 5 districts of the eastern region have appealed for farm machinery to increase rice production. The farmers' inability to access the equipment is affecting potential production rate and quality of rice. Here's a report by Yvonne Nikwe.
The rice farmers in the 5 districts, Kwel West, Brim North, Etiwa West, Fantiakwa South, and Etiwa East, number over 1,000 in the eastern region. They were used to growing the La Pez variety of rice, which gave them low yields. Through government's Planting for Food and Job program, agro-rice variety was applied to them with constant supervision from extension supervisors to increase yields. An acre of land produces an average of 2.7 tons of rice now. But the non-availability of farm machinery is affecting production potentials of the farmers.
Ye emu akuyafo edomu but yesre abanse emwa odi aboy ne yehu pa sanse wa maye mu am yedua.
We are grateful to government for his support, but we want a rice milling machine to enhance our yield.
Wanya omo mbebrama wa ansha ne aka ne nsuo begusu pe ebesei ejuma no eno na ye problem ena ne etosu mienu ye fe ne sen machine de bromu.
We want government to support us with rice milling machines, so we move from the old method.
The Etiwa East Agric Director Samuel Ufosu explained how districts have over 1,000 acres of land under rice production and has more potential for production. He added there was a 4-year plan to make the districts a rice hub.
What we intend to do is to increase the production and to form inter-sister district association of rice growers. So we have Fantiakwa South, Etiwa West, Etiwa East, Kwel West, Brim North. We share boundaries with them. Once you're able to get farmers from all those areas, then we can increase the production. Once you set up a milling machine here, all year round we should get something to also produce. Then along the section, the Accra main road, we are also going to set up a satellite market over there, where after milling, we take it there to also sell it. So generally, that's what we are doing here.
And away from the eastern region, the Ghana Maritime Authority, together with the Marine Police, is undertaking a joint operation tonight on the high seas. This is in response to the increasing incidence of illegal bunkering of Ghana's territorial waters. My colleague Eric Yaweje is with the team and joins me live from the Takoradi Harbour anchorage.
Captain Thompson. Thank you very much. So we are currently at the Takoradi Port anchorage, and we are witnessing a night patrol by the Ghana Maritime Authority together with the Ghana Marine Police. Now, this increase in night patrols essentially is in response to increasing cases of illegal bunkering and IEU, I mean illegal unreported and unregulated fishing activities. Now, this operation, we have with us the Marine Police Commander, and we also have some officials from the Ghana Maritime Authority. Now, Commander, so essentially, how prepared are your men for tonight's operation?
We are 100% prepared. This is what we've been doing every night, as far as the weather permits us. This is what we do. So we always have a team ready to undertake the night exercises.
Okay. How many men are on board this exercise?
For today's exercises, we are 4 officers, Marine Police officers.
Okay, so normally how long will it take you?
From 6 p.m. to the following morning, 6 a.m.
Okay, and in that period, what do you do?
This is the mother boat power grant, and private Odari Lamte is used to go around within the anchorage to check every ship that is anchored within our waters here. They go to check on them how their situation is, and then they come back. So throughout the night they are patrolling. So the officers, as they are here, they change. The same thing applies to GMA staff. They change so that when this team go around, they come back and another set gets on board the vessel and go again.
Okay. Captain, we've been at this location for, I think, about 30 minutes. Why are we stationed here?
Okay, the strategy we use is that we use 2 vessels. The bigger one, which is the one we are on, Power Grant, and then the smaller one, the Private Odate. It's very cost effective to have Odate going around and then making the patrols. It's a faster boat. It can make up to 30 knots. This one can make about 25 knots. But this one will obviously burn more fuel and everything. So this one anchors here and keeps the men, whilst those who are going on the effective patrol go on board the Private Odate, and then they make their rounds and come back. On a typical night, they make at least about 4 rounds around the whole of the anchorage and then even the coast as well.
Refresh our minds, why this exercise?
You know, in recent times, we had a lot of reports coming from vessels that were at our anchorage about people trying to board, to steal, and all that. So we set up this as a way of stopping that, because whatever incident that happens, no matter how minor, it is reported on the international stage, and it goes against the records of this port. Very soon, the port gets classified as an unsafe port, and that is very bad for the image of the country. It's very bad for business and everything, and that is why we're trying to nip this thing in the bud so that it doesn't continue. So this thing happens every night, like he said, so far as the weather will permit. Sometimes it gets too stormy, and then that means that the perpetrators will not be able to come out themselves. So then we also don't come out. But so long as the weather permits, we do come out every night. Okay. That's right.
Thank you very much. So these are live scenes from the Takrade anchorage. Like I said, the operation essentially is in response to increasing cases of IUs and illegal bunkering. The exercise is to make the Takrade port safer for business. Eric Hiweji, TV3 News, Takrade Port.
More interesting stories coming up when we return with Mission in a moment.
Mission is supported by the Star Ghana Foundation with thanks to Danida, UK Aid and the EU. Construction of classrooms and a dormitory for the Sredro Salvation School for the Deaf is almost complete. The additional facilities are expected to increase access in educating children with hearing disability.
The Swedro Salvation Army School for the Deaf was established in 1995 by a Salvation Army missionary. The school was taken over by the Ministry of Special Education in 2004. With a student enrollment of 134 and a staff strength of 25, the current facility which accommodates them is inadequate. There are only 3 classrooms available for kindergarten to junior high school students. As a result, some classes have to be partitioned.
Okay, she's saying most of the deaf students, the students are coming from far away. And they need a dormitory so that they will be staying here, so that they will come to school. They will go to classes early, so that is the challenge.
A lot of students who are in the school currently commute daily from very fast distances, and this has been giving sleepless nights to the parents together with the school administration. Sometimes on their way going home, they may miss the point that they are supposed to alight, and in some instances cars knock them down because when they blow the horn they may not hear it.
The Kufuor government in 2007 started a project at the school's new site, but this has not been completed as the contractor abandoned work. Currently, part of the old project has collapsed and is overgrown with weeds. In 2016, work on a new block for the school began. This comprises a 4-unit boys and girls dormitory block, classroom and staff bungalow. Work is almost complete. Although an NGO, Africa Action, has constructed a dining hall for the school at the new site, it can only be put to use when the construction of the classroom and dormitories are complete.
We are very grateful to the government that they have done something good. There are a lot of children who of school going age who are not in school because their parents cannot bring them to school daily, and because of the movement or where they are coming from. Some are coming from as far as Bojuase to the school here. Some Bobikoma, Abodom, Nyekrum, Nsaba, Esukuma and other places. Some from Winneba Road down to Swedro. So if the place is completed, many children will be enrolled, and the current one who are already in the school will be more relief in terms of what? After the school activities, when we give them homework to take home, sometimes they bring it back to the school without doing it. When you complain, they say they don't get anybody to help them. So if the place is complete and we move to this place, it will help us massively.
And that's it for Mission. Mission is supported by the Star Ghana Foundation with thanks to the NIDA, UK Aid and the AU. Thank you so much for your time.
And our election command center tonight, Member of Parliament for Tamale Central says the NDC will resist what he described as absurd decision by the Electoral Commission to compile a new voters register. Speaking in a debate on key points, NPP Communications Director Yao Boabina Samoa also justified the need for the compilation and cautioned dissenting views against the use of violence.
The Electoral Commission has confirmed that the compilation of the new voters register is scheduled to take off by June ending to July. The Commission intends using passports and the Ghana card as identification for registration, including guarantors for persons without the first 2 requirements. Speaking on key points, Member of Parliament for Tamale Central Constituency, Alhaji Nusa Fusaini, alleged the only reason the Electoral Commission is bent on compiling a new register is to rig the December 7 elections.
The Electoral Commission who told us that the only reason why they were wanting to compile a new register was because the biometric finger verification is not foolproof. Some people do not get biometrically verified, so they want to add facial recognition. They use that as the basis for coming to us. Today, as we speak, there is no CI in Parliament or anywhere that is seeking to authorize the use of facial recognition. So we see the information coming out from the EC can only be coming out from an EC that has been manipulated to the extent that they don't know what they're doing. We will resist, and I'm saying that we will resist
until
the compilation.
You will resist until there's no election?
With our blood.
Communications Director of the MPP, Yao Boabing Asamoah, in a rebuttal said the NDC should not resort to violence to register its displeasure with the EC's decision.
The EC is a body of state.
And has a constitutional duty.
And has a constitutional duty. That the NDC and anybody else within the state has a right to engage, to think, to believe, to assert at every opportunity. But that stops short of violence. That is their right. And it stops short of violence.
Coming up in international news, protesters have clashed with police in cities across the U.S. over the killing of an unarmed African-American man at the hands of officers in Minneapolis. Minnesota's governor said the tragedy of the death of George Floyd in police custody had morphed into something much different, wanton destruction. And Derek Chauvin, who is white, was shown in footage kneeling on 46-year-old Mr. Floyd's neck on Monday. He and 3 other officers have since been sacked. President Donald Trump has described the incident as terrible, a terrible, terrible thing, and said he had spoken with Mr. Floyd's family, whom he described as terrific people. And the Floyd case has reignited U.S. anger over police killings of Black Americans and reopened deep wounds over racial inequality across the nation. It follows the deaths of Michael Brown, Eric Garner, and others, which have all occurred since the Black Lives Matter movement was sparked by the acquittal of neighborhood watchman George Zimmerman in the shooting death of Trayvon Martin in 2012. Let's now cross over to the USA via Skype and speak to Dr. Hayford Insia. He is a public health analyst with the Urban University in the United States of America. Thank you so much for your time, Doc. So first of all, you recently called for swift action by the federal government to reinstate confidence in the Black Americans, the community as well. Tell us, how low has this confidence sunk as a result of this incident?
Well, on a scale of 1 to 10, I will score the confidence 2 out of 10, because there is a clear evidence of systemic racial abuse of African Americans, and it looks like much is not being done about it. The Justice Department is not doing enough to resolve the issue that is at stake. As you mentioned, Michael Brown in 2014, I lived just about 10 minutes from where the Michael Brown incident happened in Missouri during that time. Not somewhere in March, Breonna Taylor was shot dead in her home for misidentity. Some of these incidents continue to bring the confidence of African Americans so low. There are many excessive force complaints by African Americans, and it looks like the law enforcement agency, they are not doing enough to resolve this issue. Protesters believe that the laws and the policy guidelines to protect citizens are in favor of white people instead of Black people. So these are the reasons why the protest keeps going. And you know, civil society organizations like the Black Lives Matter, the Blue Eye Matters, their solidarity with these protesters has brought about a backlash from the federal government. So when such incidents happen, it tells African Americans and black people that the government is not on their side.
Now, you've also said that further delays in punishing the perpetrators will only deepen fear of racial abuse. But it appears the protests are still ongoing despite charges preferred. What exactly is happening, especially when you hear the governor of Minnesota saying that the protests are no longer about the killing of Mr. Floyd?
Well, the protest is, these kind of focusing events where law enforcement officers are killing African Americans is not new. And anytime such an incident happens, the laws are not often enforced. And even if it's enforced, it's always under enforced. When such incidents happen, everybody is expecting the Justice Department to be on the ground, to show solidarity with the protesters. But it's missing. It cannot be found. So protesters feel like this incident will end up being an addition to the various African Americans being killed and justice always not being given to them where they don't see justice. It's one of the reasons why the protests keep going. It's mistrust. They feel hurt. They feel that their concerns are not being addressed. So they want to fight until their concerns are being addressed. How many police officers were there? The laws enforcement policy guideline in Minneapolis says that when a colleague or a fellow police officer is using excessive force and is going overboard, and you are present as a police officer, you are supposed to stop it. They did not do that. Now, only one person has been charged. What about the rest?
Now, President Trump has also come under criticism for his handling of the situation, and he's now ready to deploy in the military. What should he and other governors of states be under siege be doing at this particular time?
I believe not just the federal government, but government policymakers should make policies that will be fair to African Americans. Because it looks like most government officials and policymakers, their decisions that they make in terms of funding, in terms of hiring, all of them favors, or all of them are to the advantage of white people and to the disadvantage of African Americans. Even when it comes to the hiring of law enforcement officers, how many African Americans are law enforcement officers? They don't have any trust in the law enforcement agency. They don't want to join. So it is time that government officials and the federal government prove to African American community that they are really working to protect them. They have to do a lot to win their trust. Trust is the most important thing at this stage that government should do. And it boils back to policy making and what government officials end up doing when it comes to the implementation of those policies.
Thank you very much, Doc, for your time. And I've been speaking to Dr. Hifodinsia. He is a public health analyst with the Urban University in the United States of America.
Another news tonight, a Nigerian national who impersonated the Foreign Affairs Minister, Shelia Ekobochwe, and 19 other ministers of state is still in police custody days after being admitted to bail. Now, the accused, Vivian Sadija Imran, whose accomplice and husband, Prince Joel, is at large, was unable to meet the conditions for a 12,000 cedi bill with 2 surety.
Together with her husband, Joel, they are facing 8 counts of falsely pretending to be public officers and defrauding by false pretenses. The suspect and her husband allegedly used names of Ghanaian ministers to create multiple Facebook accounts. They reportedly impersonated about 20 ministers of state to defraud more than 500 people, running over 100,000 cedis. Together with her 24-year-old husband, Prince Joel, who is currently at large, the duo used names and photographs of the affected ministers to lure unsuspecting victims with employment opportunities. Through online chats and phone calls, they convinced their victims about employment in Tema Oil Refinery, Ghana Gas Company, Cocoa Board, among others. Various amounts of money were collected from the victims via mobile money for registration and processing. 6 mobile phones and 3 mobile money numbers were picked up during a search by National Security at their Ashaiman Jericho residence. Some of the ministers used in the crime include information, tourism, creative arts and culture, foreign affairs, defense and Deputy Minister of National Security. 31-year-old Sadija, a trader, was later admitted to bail by an Accra Circuit Court presided over by Emmanuel Isando after she had pleaded not guilty, but the accused could not meet the bail condition. Hearing continues on June 3.
Coming up shortly, do stay with us. The excitement certainly continues on the leading and most watched dating game reality show, Date Rush. The show takes a different turn this Sunday with the Season 3 reunion where the contestants bear it all.
Date Rush has become that one show lovers of quality and exciting television content cannot afford to miss for anything. It is amazing the conversation the show generates across various social media platforms, which eventually ends on the streets. On the last episode, producers of the show Adesawe Production Limited hinted at an excitement galore that awaits viewers as the season reunion starts airing from this weekend at 8 p.m. The 3-episode Season 3 reunion show will bring back all the participants of the show, those who got dates as well as those who didn't get dates.
Why did Michael choose me? Why did he leave Lady? Why is he vibing with Lady now?
Imam and Michael.
You are telling lies.
That is Mike. So if a friend did that, then it's Mike, because you see from the first section,
it's not Mike.
They are entering.
Participants will be able to recap their high and low moments as well as discuss their life after participating in the show. For those who got dates, it will be an opportunity to know the status of their relationships. Date Rush airs on TV3 this and every Sunday at 8 p.m.
Right, and that's all the news on NEWS360 tonight. Remember, there is more updates on 3news.com, and also don't go out without any protective clothing, like you know already. I'm Imam. Have a good night.
And I am Portia Gabo. Up next is Music.